welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a really big, really personal topic, the right to die with dignity. We're going to walk through India's whole legal and ethical journey on this complex issue.
So what does it really mean to die with dignity? I mean, this one question is at the absolute center of a massive legal and ethical shift happening in India. It's making us all ask, is life just about how long we live, or is it about the quality of that life?
All right, so to understand where we are now, we've got to look at how we got here. Let's dig into the legal journey and some of the key court cases that shaped everything.
Okay, so take a look at this. You can see a really clear progression here, right? It all starts back in 2011 with the landmark Aruna Shanbhag case. That was the first time passive euthanasia and living wills were even recognized. Then fast forward to 2018 and bam, the right to die with dignity gets linked to the right to life itself. And more recently, the focus has really shifted to making this whole process, well, more practical and accessible for people. And this is the absolute core of the legal argument. The Supreme Court said, look, the right to die with dignity isn't some separate new idea. No, it's actually part of Article 21, the right to life. They're two sides of the same coin. You can't have a right to a dignified life without also having the right to a dignified end.
This 2023 ruling was a huge deal, a real game changer. Before this, you could have a living will, but getting it recognized was a bureaucratic nightmare. I mean, it involved a whole court process every single time. So what this ruling did was cut through a ton of that red tape, making it so much smoother for patients and their families. It really put the power back in the patient's hands.
Okay, so we've seen the how, the legal journey, but what about the why? Let's pivot to the ethical side of things, because these laws aren't just dry legal text. They're built on some really deep moral principles.
And it really comes down to these four pillars. First, you've got autonomy. Pretty simple, right? It's the patient's right to call the shots. Then there's beneficence, which is just a fancy way of saying doctors should act in the patient's best interest. And its partner, non-maleficence, do no harm. Finally, there's justice, making sure everything is fair and equitable. Every single decision in these cases is a careful balancing act between these four ideas.
And this leads to a really profound shift in how we think about life itself. The idea is that life is, well, it's more than just a biological process, right? It's more sociological. It's about our connections, our experiences, our dignity. And if the dignity of our birth and life is so important, shouldn't the dignity of our death be just as crucial?
So this is where things can get ethically tricky, and that's where something called the theory of double effect comes in. Think about it like this. An action can have two outcomes, one good and one bad. So is it ethical? Well, this theory says yes, if your main goal, your intention, is the good outcome. For example, giving a patient medicine to relieve terrible pain, that's the good effect. A side effect might be that it hastens death, that's the bad effect. But as long as the doctor's intent is to relieve the suffering, not to cause death, it's considered ethical. It's all about the why behind the action.
All right, let's zoom out a bit, because these court rulings, they don't just happen in a legal bubble. They have real-world impacts that ripple out and affect families, doctors, and all of us, really.
And what we're seeing is a major societal transition. For a long time, the default was to protect life at any cost, no matter what. But now, the conversation is shifting. We're starting to value the quality of life over just the length of it. It's a huge change in thinking.
But this is where it gets complicated. It's like two sides of the same coin. On one side, this is a massive relief for families, especially those who aren't wealthy, who are just being crushed by the financial weight of prolonged, hopeless medical care. But the other side, well, it's a serious risk. You have to wonder, could the elderly, or the poor, or people with disabilities be pressured into making this choice because of financial strain or because they feel like a burden? It's a very real danger.
Okay, let's talk about something the court was really clear on, the language we use. Because words matter, especially when we're talking about care and not abandonment.
The Supreme Court came right out and said it. The term passive euthanasia is obsolete. It's incorrect. We shouldn't use it. Why? Because it makes it sound like a simple on-off switch, acting versus not acting. But that's not what this is about. It's much more nuanced, and that term just muddies the waters.
And this is maybe the most important distinction of all. Withdrawing treatment is not the same as abandoning a patient. It's not walking away. It's actually a different kind of care. It's saying, this particular path isn't helping anymore, so let's shift our focus to what will truly provide comfort and dignity.
So what does that look like? Well, palliative care continues. End-of-life care continues.
Medical care does not just stop, it transforms. The goal is no longer a cure that's out of reach. The goal becomes comfort. The goal becomes dignity. It's about making sure a person's final days are as peaceful and pain-free as possible.
Which brings us back to the central challenge, the question that we're all still grappling with. How do we protect the vulnerable while also honoring an individual's right to choose? It's a delicate balance for sure. As India continues down this path, finding that balance is everything. Because ultimately, this entire conversation is about one thing: ensuring that a life from its very beginning to its very end is lived with dignity.
You can download the complete notes of this video from the pinned comment below. If this video helped, do like and subscribe to the BriefCase for daily visual editorials.